Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel for another video. Today's video is going to be on the case of missing 14-year-old Andrew Gosden, who went missing in 2007. This is a case that we probably have all heard of, or at least seen the picture of Andrew, who has been used on posters for the Missing Persons charity. However, I think it is so important that we cover the specific facts that might help Andrew's family to find some answers as to what has happened to him. Before we start this video, I just want to do a little disclaimer. So there is a very informative blog that Andrew's father Kevin runs. It's called, and I'm just going to look to my screen to make sure I definitely get the name right. I'll also link it in the description box down below. So it's called helpusfindandrew.weebly.com. And on that blog there is all the publications that have covered Andrew's story. There's lots of useful information to the charity Missing Persons, links to useful information, little bits of information about Andrew that can help identify him. I did reach out to Kevin because the family would prefer it if places when people would reach out to them before they cover the case. So I've reached out to Kevin, asked him for any information or any little comments he would like me to include, and he has kindly sent me a document containing all the things that he would like me to include in the video. I've also found a very useful video. Andrew did an interview with a YouTuber called Jason Herbert back in 2020, so I've watched that entire video. It's over an hour long. It's packed full of information that might help people to find or identify Andrew, so I really recommend going out and checking out that website after you've watched this video. I think it's important to remember here that this is a real family that we're talking about. Andrew's family have gone through years of torment trying to figure out or find out what had happened to their son. So if we can please keep the comment section respectful down below. Thank you. Andrew Gosden was a 14-year-old boy who went missing on the 14th of September 2007. Now, on that day, Andrew got ready for school, and as he was leaving, his dad said, "See you later," and he replied, "Yes, see you soon, Dad," and that was the last conversation that he had with his father. That day, he set off as if he was going to go to school, and then at some point he returned home when he knew that his family were no longer in the building. He got home, he got changed and into a Slipknot t-shirt and a pair of jeans, and as he normally would when he finished school, he put his blazer and tie neatly on the back of the chair in his bedroom and put his shirt and trousers into the washing machine. Andrew then went to a cash point where he withdrew everything in his savings account, which was the equivalent of £200. He then left his home in Bolby and went to Doncaster Station, where he bought a one-way ticket to London's King Cross Station. The last time Andrew was ever seen was on the CCTV at King's Cross Station, and this is something that we'll discuss later on with CCTV, but they are the last images of Andrew that there are available. I will put them on the screen now so that you can see what images I'm on about and see the CCTV for yourself. Andrew was a summer baby. He was born on July 10th, and every year his family light a candle in his honour. He was extremely close with his sister Charlotte. In the recent interview that I watched with him, Kevin said that he was extremely close with Charlotte. He would tell Charlotte absolutely everything, and they had a really good relationship. Andrew was into the goth scene. He loved his heavy metal music, including Slipknot and Funeral for a Friend. He was described as being a quiet but confident and very clever young man. His dad said at the time he was going through a quiet stage, but nothing was there to suggest that he had any serious issues with his mental health or any ongoing problems that they knew about. He was actually part of the government scheme which no longer exists, the Gifted and Talented School programme, as well as his sister Charlotte, who was also in the programme. They did a summer learning school at Cambridge where they went into the school, they did lecturers, with the university lecturers, and if that doesn't show you how clever and talented he was, I don't know what will. He was in that gifted and talented programme. He had 100% attendance at school. He was really passionate about school. He didn't even take a day off when he was ill. He was always in school. So obviously it was quite out of character for him to have left on this day and not returned. Now, in this interview that I did recently watch with Kevin, he did say that maybe it was a one-off. They believe that maybe he bought a one-way ticket because they have got a lot of family members that are in London. Maybe he thought that he would buy the ticket to London, he would then go and stay with a relative, let it blow over. Obviously his parents were going to say no to him going to London because he was supposed to be in school, and then get in contact with them. But we don't know what happened after Andrew left King Cross station. It's believed that he may have gone onto the subway, the underground tube, but that's not 100% confirmed. There are a list of characteristics that I do want to mention that can make Andrew very, very easy to recognise. On his right ear, he has a double indent on his right ear, and I'll put an image of that on the screen now. So a double indent on his right ear that's almost as unique as a fingerprint. He was also deaf in his left ear, so although face-to-face conversation wasn't an issue, if you shouted him from behind, he struggled to tell which side you were shouting from. So if you shouted Andrew from behind, he would struggle to tell whether to turn left or right or where to look. So that would be something that would very much distinguish him out with the indent on his right ear as well. He had brown hair and brown eyes. He had to wear quite strong prescription glasses. He required a +8 Doppler prescription lens. So Andrew had to have these glasses. It almost gave his eyes a magnified look because of how strong they were. And without these glasses or contacts, he wouldn't be able to see anything. Without the glasses, he was essentially blind. As I mentioned before, Andrew was a very intelligent young man. He tended to speak quite quickly, but also quietly, and included a lot of humour in his sentences and what he said to other people. So that is an identifying characteristic you can look out for as well. There is age-progressed images which I will show on the screen now. The latest one in 2018, which shows what Andrew could potentially look like at the age of 25. I'll include both of those in both age progression photos in the video now so you can see for yourself. If Andrew is still alive today, it's very likely that he has little to no access to bank accounts, national insurance, or anything like passports. A lot of the information that I am going to give next are potential leads or speculations into things that could have happened to Andrew or where Andrew could be now. These are not fully facts. Not all of these are facts that have been taken into account into the investigation, or these are things that have been looked into and nothing has come up of them. Now, somebody on this interview in a live stream that was held while Kevin was being interviewed did mention internet access and potentially being groomed. However, Kevin did say that they'd only had internet access in the house for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and so before his disappearance, and so he wouldn't have had a lot of time to have access to the internet. They checked his sister Charlotte's laptop, and they also checked the school library, and there was no trace of anybody attempting to groom Andrew. Another thing that somebody suggested was maybe his mental health. He was struggling with that. He had stopped going to Scouts and said that he enjoyed the camping, but he didn't enjoy the weekly meetings, which in my opinion, that's fair enough. I was the same with Scouts. When I was in Scouts, I enjoyed the camp and not the weekly meetings. So I think that's just something, when you're growing up, you do go through changes, and your opinions and what you like to do and what you don't like to do change. At that point, Andrew was growing his hair out, and as I mentioned, was going through a kind of goth style phase and into his heavy metal music. At the time of his disappearance, people have also mentioned that Andrew didn't have a mobile phone. So at the time, Andrew had a mobile phone. His father can't quite recall whether he lost it or broke it. They offered to buy him a new phone, and he said to his dad, actually, I'm not that bothered about having a phone. And so Kevin thought, well, we grew up without phones, it can't be that bad. So at the time, they had no mobile phone to contact Andrew on. They didn't realise that Andrew was actually missing until the family sat down to have dinner, and they thought that Andrew was playing in the family basement on his computer games, and then when they called him, that's when they found out that he hadn't actually returned home. The school had tried to notify them, however they had called the wrong number, so nobody was notified that Andrew didn't turn up for school. Kevin was actually asked about this, and he said that, you know, it can be quite easy, especially back in those times, to call the number above or below Andrew's record, so he doesn't hold anything against the school. He has mentioned that the police work wasn't always up to scratch in the beginning of the investigation, so there were leads of Andrew being spotted in a Pizza Hut and also in Covent Gardens. These leads weren't followed up, and by the time that police came to look for CCTV, a lot of it had been deleted because it had been past the date of the tapes being deleted, and no CCTV was trying to be chased up on the tubes where it is believed that Andrew may have gone to get to wherever he needed to go in London. So, as I mentioned before, the last time that Andrew was spotted was at King Cross Station on the CCTV. They also said that the CCTV was either not working or facing the wrong way to catch Andrew on camera, so unfortunately the last bit of imagery we have of Andrew, as I mentioned, is at King Cross Station. Witnesses put Andrew at King's Cross Station at around 11:37 a.m. His train was originally delayed by about 20 minutes, and there were witnesses that saw him on the train and a man that was sat opposite him, but the last two unconfirmed sightings were at Pizza Hut and Covent Gardens. Another thing that they did look into was the summer school that Andrew had attended the previous summer in 2006 as part of the Gifted and Talented programme. They checked up on all of the staff and all of his fellow students that attended the summer school, and nothing suspicious or untoward came out of that investigation, and so that was another lead that didn't lead to anything. Another thing the police have done is scan in the last piece of Andrew's handwriting that they could find, the latest piece before he disappeared. They do say that handwriting doesn't tend to change much from your teenage years, and so they've scanned this in, so if there are any leads to do with his handwriting, they need to check the handwriting out. They can use that last piece of handwriting to compare it to any handwriting they might find. In 2008, a man went to Leominster Station at around 8:15 p.m. at night. It was a smaller station, so there was no police at the station. He left a message, and by the time a female police officer had attended to talk to him, as he had told them in the message that he had information on the missing boy, he was gone and they couldn't find any trace of him. The man then did write into the BBC, and he did say that he'd seen a sighting of Andrew in Shrewsbury, and that lead was followed up and nothing ever came of it. Around 2018, the Gosdens got a lead from a person who said they'd had an online conversation with a man going by Andy Rue. Andy Rue said that he was looking for £200 to pay his rent. He had no bank account, and he said that he'd ran away from home when he was 14 because he felt like it. Speaking to Kevin actually advised in the interview he had back in 2020 that Rue was a nickname that they used to call Andrew when he was young, and this wasn't something that they'd released out to the media, so it was looking like quite a likely lead. Although nothing has come of this, does seem quite bizarre that these circumstances do add up, considering that it's unlikely Andrew would have any bank account, passport or national insurance number, and in this account was looking for somebody to pay his rent. Andrew's family have never stopped looking for Andrew. They've never given up. They've followed every lead. They have spoken to lots of publications. They've spent their entire lives looking for Andrew, and they've struggled with their mental health, and so if they could get some answers of what happened to Andrew, that would at least give them a little bit of closure. I would like to mention the Missing People Helpline, a charity that helps look for missing people. They publish the information. They have a Twitter account where they post missing people on there. They have a website, but they also have a helpline. And again, I'm just going to look at the screen to make sure that I get the correct number. So Kevin would especially like me to mention this because this is something that he doesn't want to happen to any other family. He knows the anguish and pain this can bring upon a family, and he would like me to mention this charity in particular because although he says it might not help his family, he'd like to think that it would help another family in the future. It can help a family who has a missing child or a missing person get in contact with them if they're in danger or if they need any help. So the number to contact to call and discuss any leads or anything you've got on Andrew's case is 116000. I'll also put a note of that on the screen, and I'll also post that in the description box as well. So the family would prefer if you have any leads to call rather than put them online, because there have been a lot of examples of wrong people being identified. So to protect people's privacy, they would prefer if you would call up with any information you might have. The police, South Yorkshire Police, are also looking, and you can call 101, but there's also the Missing Persons Helpline, which is a charity that I would really like to mention, an organisation I'd really like to mention. I will link a link to their website down below as well. They are a website that I've looked at before. They're putting out posters and missing people, and it gives people hope and know that there's somewhere that they can go or somebody that they can contact if they need any help with their missing persons case. It's not nice at all for any family to have to go through something like this, and if this little video can be shared, or any of the publications, or even just Kevin's blog on Andrew, even if you could just share a link to that, that would help and maybe get at least one more person to access Andrew's case and read into the information. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I'll post all relevant links or anything that might be helpful in the description box down below, in helping to look for any missing person, but also in Andrew's case as well. I have been very grateful that Kevin has gotten back in touch with me and given me the information that he'd like me to include, and he's also let me use these videos and images off his website. There are plenty more documents and plenty more information on the Help Us Find Andrew website, so I really recommend checking that out and looking at all the information, any posters that you can post, any links you can post to your profile, because there's actual social media links you can post that are all helpful information, that is stuff that you can share online to help in the case of Andrew, can be all found on this blog, so I really do recommend checking it out. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one.